angles and points of view. That was kind of the fun part of it all, just to see like different points of view where it was different from where I was.
And then looked like there were a couple times where Jaden was affected by the ribs, however much. How did he fare in that game, and what's the plan for him even this week? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I really thought he had a good performance, John. And he's sore today, much like a lot of the guys after the game. But that's pretty typical for a Monday, so I'll have a better update as you're going to go. But I was really, pumped to see him do what he was able to do. And obviously the deep ball to Terry, it was a big one, that deep ball to throw it. So we pushed it Friday hard, and we knew that was going to be part of the case. But he's sore like a lot of his teammates are today.
Just what was your biggest takeaway? I mean, there's so much focus on that last play, but when you watch the game as a whole, what was sort of your biggest takeaway on not just the offense, but the defense too, and how they've really stepped up in recent weeks?
Yeah, I was super pumped for them, Nikki, in terms of the third and the fourth downs. I don't know, maybe it was 2 or 3 out of, a good amount. And I thought that was what we were looking for. And I thought Joe and the staff and the guys did a really good job of tying the whole thing together, the rush, the coverage. And we knew their quarterback could escape and get outside, and he did some. But to see us fight and finishing for it, that was the case. I would say a number of the missed tackles we had, I bet, were on the QBs. I would think both sides, had double digits of missed tackles, and both QBs could, evade and make you miss. But more than anything, I was pleased to see the tackling, down the field. That was going to be a big deal. And then the ball, we had said that was going to be, the deciding factor in this game. So the one coming off the goal line, Nikki, that to me was the play of the game before there was the play of the game.
And then what was your view of Zach Ertz's incompletion in the end zone that was upheld on review? What was your angle on it, and any thoughts on how that was called?
Yeah, I don't regret the challenge of it. You regret, when you don't get it. But, going all the way down, both feet, completing the catch, we didn't think it moved enough that it would be, stopped from being overturned. So I thought it was one that was worthwhile to do, Nikki. And I trust Dave, obviously, in the press box and all his years of experience with the officials. So we needed points, and so on that one we thought it was worthwhile. It was in the right part of the game where you would take your shot at something like that. Maybe in the first half I wouldn't have, early in the game, or those kind of things. But I thought in that instance it was the right call. We just didn't. It didn't go our way.
Ben?
Hey, Dan. When you look back at the game, there was the Zacchaeus touchdown called back because of the penalty, and then there was another play earlier. What did you think of those calls? That's not the type of penalty you guys have been getting a lot this year.
Yeah, so one was another longer run with Diami, illegal man downfield. And so both of those I would put in the ones that we can correct those, Ben, as the discipline parts. A holding or, one that's, a foul that comes from being combative, we'll work our way through those. But a false start or an illegal man downfield, those are the ones that we have to correct. And they kind of put us into some tough spots because we didn't have the red zone game that we wanted. But I thought if we can nail those parts down better, it eliminated, 2 big plays for us. And so we've got to be able to nail that down.
And I know it's earlier in the week, but with Cornelius Lucas going down, any updates on him or Coleman or any other injuries that may have happened?
No updates. Wednesday we'll have a better sense for it. We're hoping, that we'll get a better sense for where Brandon is going through the week, and same with Luke. But I'll have a better update for you at Wednesday after we go through, today and tomorrow to go. But hopeful that's where it's headed.
Sam?
DQ, did you anticipate that Jaden could continue scrambling, that being a big part of your offense, even though, he was going through, his injury?
Yes. We would thought that would have been a really important part of it, Sam, because that is part of his game. So that was definitely a part of not just the throwing, but the movement part of it as well. Absolutely.
Yes, can you kind of expand a little bit more? Like, what does his scrambling allow your offense to do? Why is that so important to what you guys do?
Well, I think the ability to be a dual threat is on a certain play, you could have the right coverage or the right blitz or the right thing, But then there's the X factor that comes in where he can get outside the pocket, keep his eyes down the field to make a throw, or get outside the pocket and use his legs, to go convert. And so I think he ended up maybe with six or seven runs. So they weren't any designed ones. They were just ones of him getting outside the pocket, to go extend some plays. So it's definitely was part of, the evaluation piece that would be able to do both.
Thank you.
David Aldridge.
Dan, how did you think your D-line came through yesterday, especially some of the young guys?
One of the guys that really stood out to me, Dave, yesterday, and I was hoping this was going to happen, and you guys have heard me talk about him quite a bit, is Johnny Newton. And I felt him from 3 technique. I felt him inside to get the fumble recovery. You guys have heard me, say this is coming, and I felt that for him. So it was good to see the pressure that he was able to generate, from the inside, both over the guard and over the center. So between him and Duran, I really was pleased to see, that evolution take place with Johnny. So I'd say he's the one that really jumped out to me, Dave, that it was really cool to see.
They had obviously the Swift had the big run, and they
yes.
had the drive at the end. But I think, was it 2 of 14 on third downs, I think, for them. Did you think you guys had – was this a corner-turning game for your defense, do you think?
I'm hopeful that it was another step forward of getting stronger. And there was another play that I forgot to mention that I should have on the 4th down stop by St. Juice. It was a tackle. They had a run play, and they threw what's called a run solution outside. And so for him to step up, make the tackle, you saw Luvu coming to run to go. So those kind of stops, although it wasn't a turnover, it was like one, being on the 4th down play. But we've been aiming at improvement and making, significant improvement in a lot of the spots. And you don't get to take away the long run. You don't get to take away those ones. But what I would say, man, I loved some of the running and the hitting. And to see those guys really speed it up. And I thought Bobby Wagner, David, was in the very front of it like a quarterback, very in control. We had to get in and out of some checks based on empties and new alignments and new calls. And I thought he just showed that poise came through. We were very fortunate to have him here because of that presence. And he's a good blitzer, but more than anything, I just felt him in total control defensively, like a coach on the field. And it was really one of his better games in that way. I just really felt the control of him.
Scott.
Hi, Dan. You mentioned the fight and the belief of this team. How's that created inside a locker room?
It really comes from, the guys that they're with every day. And there's usually another level that you can tap into. Like, you can get yourself and these skills to a certain level, but because of the people you're with, there's another level that you can tap into. And that's what I think they're doing now, is playing really, really hard for one another. And that's the secret of it all, Scott. You can take yourself to a certain level, but to really tap into the next gear, to the next spot, you got to bring people with you. And when I see that, and I see it on the sideline, I see Revo and Ballore talking to young Jordan McGee, and what are they seeing and where's it going to go. I see it with Klee and DA on the defensive line. I saw it with Terry McLaurin up and down the sideline talking to different position groups. We were frustrated, and he was there to provide the energy for those guys. So it manifests itself in a lot of different ways, Scott, but it usually comes back to doing it, for the guy that's right next to them. And that's what I've been seeing, and that's what I've been hearing.
And I talked to a lot of different players inside that locker room after the game, and the big kind of storyline was they all had belief in number 5, Jaden Daniels, your quarterback. He's a rookie. He's so young. In your experience, Dan, is that rare for a team to have that amount of trust in a rookie like that?
Yeah, it is rare because it has to be proven, over and over. And Jaden has continually done that, during his time here to show early on as a veteran, hey, is this guy going to help us and what is there? And you're just constantly, being put to the test to see how you'll respond and how you'll go. And so he's really earned that respect, from his teammates, and that's why they also want to fight so hard for him. Some of that does come from his humility. You do see him pushing it all back to the guys, and that is a skill in itself that he has, that his teammates just absolutely would just fight at the drop of a hat for him. They respect him that much.
Donna?
Hey, Coach. Could you talk a little bit about just the red zone and pretty much what you were seeing there?
Yes. Thanks, Donna. The first one, I thought maybe we had a shot. I don't know if it was the first one or not, but it was we had a couple of uncharacteristic drops as well. And so I thought there was one for Austin, and then the touchdown, we thought we had a shot with Zach to go. So we were disappointed that a false start knocked us back into some longer yardage ones. So it's definitely one that almost felt like New York Giants weeks back ago, where we let some self-inflicted wounds force us into some field goals. And so that part for us, we've really got to hammer down to make sure that down the red zone, touchdowns is where we're at, because when you're playing that close of a game, the margin for error is so close. And so the ability for us to leave there with, touchdowns is a big deal. And they weren't all at, 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 from the goal. We had to make sure we can get down there and get scoring. But the penalties and the drop certainly not drop, but the penalties and Zach's one that didn't count for a touch. We've got to be able to convert on those.
And I heard the players talk a little bit about brotherhood. They kept mentioning that last week and even yesterday. How are you seeing that continually being built over the course of each game?
I think I see it and I hear it also. I see it during the week in the practice habits, doing things early before practice, doing things after practice. It might be in the form of the scout team coming in to look at what is the exact stance that the player is going to have. What's the way that they move and go through the process to give the player that type of look. I saw it on the sideline yesterday with some guys that were inactive for the games. Whether it was C-Rod or Defoe, this unbelievable support for the guys that were in the fight, their eyes, another set of ears for them. So those are small things that I see of, huge support for one another. And they battle each other at practice too. And that's all part of it, to compete to see how good they can get. But I think all of that, Donna, when you tie it all together, that's the secret sauce. And they really care about one another. They want the players and the coaches, they want to, get it right for each other. And that's a really big deal. And to see that happening, I see it, I hear it, but I'm watching for it too. And it's manifested itself in a lot of different spots.
Thanks.
Andy?
Hey there, Coach. Yesterday we saw Terry McLaurin get fired up a bit.
A lot of bit.
Right, a lot of it. So what have you seen from him so far this season, right? We've gone from the kind of the narrative of needing to get Terry the ball to the connection of Jaden and Terry. But now Terry, just as the person and the player, what have you seen from him?
Yeah, I've always, like early on, it jumped out to me as professionalism. He was so squared away, Candy, and so on his own details. What's been really cool for me to see is this relationship with him and the entire team, build and take place and leading. And like I was referring to yesterday, of him up and down the different position groups, to the offensive line, to the quarterbacks. Last week discussing, what he was seeing with Marcus. And so I'd say that is probably one of the coolest things to see, Candy, is that development of the leader, because the professional, it's there. And he's got very high standards about how he does things. But now to see the extra gear taking place of, bringing it out in others, that's the big deal to me. Like I said, you may have heard me say early on, I thought leadership was about me. And then I found out really it's about how I can, bring out the leadership in others. And so, man, have I seen that in Terry, seen that leadership develop in its own way. And it has to be authentic to that person. So he has been a lot of bit fired up. And I've liked what I've seen from the leading aspect as well.
And kind of pulling on that thread of how you look at leadership, there was a lot of clips of you being very excited yesterday after.
Me?
Yes, you. Can you believe it? They caught you too on camera. So for you, how are you measuring yourself? Do you feel like you're hitting the mark and doing what you need to do as the head coach of the team?
I want to make sure that I'm the one that is always about the standard of how we do things, Candy. And I think that's really important that I recognize when it's right, but I also recognize when it can be better or when we're not meeting a standard, and I'm comfortable doing both of those. In the game, I know how hard the guys have worked to get to that spot, and so I want to be on the trip with them and encourage them and support them and lead them when I can. But most importantly, the game management situations, that's where I can make my impact on the coaching side. But I also want to make sure their confidence about the way they play, the attitude, our play style, that's really important to me. And that's probably the thing I talk to them about most. Creating an identity doesn't happen in one game, and you've heard me say it takes time doing that over and over again. And I'm trying to be relentless in that way to make sure our play style looks like that for you, our friends, our family, our fans, and everybody. When they watch us, they say, man, these guys, this is how they get down all the time. And that's really important to create.
David Harrison.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach.
Hi, Dave.
The DeAndre Swift touchdown, after getting a chance to watch the tape, can you just share a little bit of what you saw on that play?
Yep. And so as an outside run to go, what we'd like to see on that play is the ball to be able to be turned back inside to where your support can be. And so on that particular one, I thought we lost leverage, much like you could do on a pass play. If you have outside leverage and man-to-man and you're inside and the receiver would break out, you'd lose leverage. It's just as important in the run game. And if you give a player like Swift a space to go with that kind of speed, he'll make you pay. And so he did. And so that's the one that you don't get him back. And I think I was saying that to David Aldridge earlier, that I love the energy and the toughness, but it's all the plays all the way through the game. And we'll learn from it. But that's what I saw. Just our leverage has to be correct. And when it is, it's a really effective group.
And I know you guys have the availability to send plays or calls, whether they be missed or called plays or things like that, to the league office. Did you opt to do that this week at all?
Like plays from the game?
Yeah, or calls or anything like that?
Yeah, we will. We haven't yet, but we will, yeah.
Can you share anything about any of those? Or?
No, I can probably give you a follow-up on Wednesday once I visit with Dave tonight. We'll usually go through that tonight and then send them in at the end. Sometimes it could be as easy as, a substitution. It could be, what did you need to see differently here, if it was down the field. But quite honestly, Dave, the replay assist has helped a lot. And so I'm able to ask the officials on the field for more clarification. So there's not as many that get sent in as they used to be. And so I think that's a step in the right direction.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Liam.
Hi, Coach. I just wanted to ask about what the vibe, what the atmosphere is like in the facility today. Is today another Tell the Truth Monday, business as usual, or is there any extra buzz around the building?
I think that was mostly last night, Liam, honestly, on the extra buzz. It was so much fun, man. Like, it must have been 100 hugs given out to whoever you were standing next to. It was that kind of moment and vibe. As today goes, it's really important to get back into the process. And we talked exactly about what you're describing, to refill the tanks emotionally, physically, and stay right into our process, what happens on a Monday, because the Tell the Truth Monday is literally about getting to that. It's what's the lesson, what I'm going to learn from it. And then the last piece of that, Liam, the most important piece probably is like, how do I apply it? Because if just learning it is not enough, it has to be applied. And so what's the lessons that were for you in that game? Might have been a technique. It could have been a communication. It might have just been a skill, but it has to be applied. And so that's what we hit on today. And then it's important because we like going right back into our process on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. We have a precise nature in getting ready, and so we're not going to back off of that.
Yeah, and then just a quick follow-up. Obviously, you're newer to the organization. You've been here about 9 months now, but you've seen what this organization, what this fan base has been through over the past 10, 15, 20 years. Do you have a sense of what a win like that and what a start like this season, how that's kind of energized the fan base? Do you have a sense of that?
I don't have a sense from being in the past, but I can tell you what I've experienced from here. And last night was a really good example of that, man. Like, it was rocking. And so had some false starts, on their offense, which I attribute to the fans. And at many places you may see when a touchdown happens that the stadium empties out or changes, and that was not the case. And so I'm hopeful about the next 25 years that will not ever be the case. Hey, remember that time in 2024? So from here on, I just love the energy that's been created from the fans. They provide a lot for our team. And we want to give that back to them in the strongest way that we can and represent that for them. And when every time they watch us, have a sense for, man, I can't wait to see what happens next. And but yeah, we love the connection that's taking place.
Thanks, Coach.
We got time for one more wino.
Dan, on the Hail Mary, the Bears had a DB who was, I guess, away from the play, out of the play. How much do you think that affected kind of the result of maybe not having that guy defending for Chicago?
Yeah, I saw the play, and it's a tough lesson for a young player, and he'll bounce back from it. But yeah, all things matter in those winning time moments, Steve. And like I said, that for a young guy, it's a tough lesson to go through. But like I said, he'll bounce back from it.
All right, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll see you guys on Wednesday.